She's the urban legend queen that makes everyone's blood run cold, but she thinks she's just your average petty villainess. When the people she hates vanish without a trace, she just assumes it's for the sake of the plot. She complains once about the miserable weather, and the entire city clears up in a heartbeat. She thinks it's all just a coincidence, but little does she know. That little cutie she summoned to protect herself? It's a literal walking calamity. Every word she breathes is a divine decree. Anyone who dares get close to her is watched from every single angle, 24/7, living every day in a state of unspeakable terror. After being possessed, the girl wakes up inside a coffin. She snaps upright, she tilts her head slightly, and her long, silver hair spills down like a shimmering waterfall. Her blood-red eyes scan the funeral hall. "What is my name?" she asks. As human speech spills from those dead lips, the entire hall falls into a deathly silence. No one dares to answer. The candle light flickers, illuminating a room full of faces paralyzed with horror. The priest's prayer gets stuck in his throat. His face, usually so full of practiced mercy, is now twisted as if he's staring at a demon crawling out of a crack in hell. A few days ago, Evangeline, the only daughter of Earl Johansson, died. Officially, they said it was an illness. But the servants who work for the Earl can never forget. Those pale, lifeless feet dangling from a blooming cherry blossom branch, swaying in the wind. The blossoms were a deep, vivid red. Even now, it feels like that heavy, sweet fragrance is still lingering right under their noses. Maybe it's because the coffin was stuffed with cherry blossoms instead of the usual white lilies. Because of the scandalous nature of her death, the funeral was held privately at the estate. They didn't take her out for a public service. After the ceremony in the side hall, they decided to bury her body in a corner of the backyard instead of the temple where she belonged. The temple never accepts those who take their own lives. It was their only choice. But the outsiders, clueless as they were, just praised the Earl for his deep love and sent their condolences. The funeral was kept very simple. Usually, a noble's funeral is supposed to be grand and extravagant, but Evangeline's ceremony felt strangely pathetic. Didn't have the dignity a noble lady deserved. The Earl's family used the excuse of a contagious disease to turn away other nobles. Only the house servants and a few knights were actually there. I don't know if it was because there were so few guests, or because not a single person actually cried for her. But a bone-chilling atmosphere filled the air. Even the priest's chanting sounded eerie. The one leading the funeral was some nobody priest. His posture and snow-white robes looked pious enough, but anyone who actually knew the meaning of honor would have seen through it. Once the priest finished his prayer, the ceremony was almost over. All they had to do now was close the lid and lower her into the grave they'd dug. But then, in that dead silent hall, a sharp, scraping sound suddenly rang out. The priest, who took his own dignity very seriously, cleared his throat as a warning. He tried to keep going with the prayer, but the commotion only got worse. The rustle of dry leaves, the sound of something hard bumping against bone, the creaking of wood, all these tiny sounds started piling up. Finally, as the crowd began to whisper, the priest lost his patience, stopped praying, and snapped his eyes open. And there, he saw the source of all the fuss. Silver hair was spilling out like a waterfall. It didn't even look like hair. It looked like someone had gathered a massive spiderweb and spun it into long, shimmering threads. Her eyelashes flickered, and as her eyelids opened, they revealed blood-red eyes. The color wasn't like a ruby or some gemstone. It looked more like a fresh, beating heart. Aside from those crimson eyes that looked like clotted blood, she was immaculately pale, standing out in her white dress among the crowd dressed in black funeral robes. It was as if she were a silent presence, stripped away from the very fabric of this world. Cold and ghostly white, the priest frantically called out to God in his heart. He recited the holy prayers under his breath, but they didn't have the slightest effect. The resurrected corpse began to move, starting with a slow, deliberate twitching of her fingers. She tried to clench her fists, blinking her eyes and slowly turning her head. It looked as though some inhuman entity was struggling to adapt to this strange, new body. It stared up at the swaying crystal chandelier hanging from the ceiling. Those who met that gaze felt a chill run through their entire bodies. They covered their mouths and held their breath in terror. To be watched by such an ominous thing, something that shouldn't exist, something that should never have returned to this world. It felt like dying would be a mercy compared to this. Finally, the thing actually spoke in a human tongue. "What is my name?" the being occupying Evangeline Rohanson's body asked. After getting used to the new body, it flashed a deeply satisfied smile. A few days later, the girl finally realized she had transmigrated. She tried her best to remember how she had died. She had been healthy and unemployed. No overworking, and she definitely wasn't hit by that legendary truck that sends people to other worlds. Thinking it over, she probably just died in her sleep. Is transmigration really that casual these days? They didn't even bother setting up a magic circle for her. Oh well, what's done is done. Might as well make the best of it. There's no point obsessing over it. The most important thing is the body she's in right now. Not a single memory of the original owner remained, which actually saved her from any messy identity crises or personality clashes. But the problem was, why did she have to wake up right in the middle of her own funeral? No wonder everyone looked at her like they'd seen a ghost. From the priest's perspective, this was literally a crime scene where a corpse had come back to life. At the time, she just wanted to ask for a name to fake her way through. Instead, she got interrogated by the priest and a doctor for an entire day. Just thinking about it gives her a headache. She didn't even know which book she had fallen into. Those martial arts novels she read recently were absolutely useless here. Since she knew nothing about the original owner, she had no choice but to pretend she had amnesia. Luckily, there was a maid willing to help her. From that maid, she managed to piece together some information. This was one of those, possessed by a villainess, type of stories. The servants bowed their heads and trembled the moment they saw her. Some people fainted just looking at her, and one maid even fell to her knees begging for mercy the second they met. That girl was dragged away on the spot. Just how evil was the original owner of this body? To scare these poor girls like that? Please, just try to live a kind life. To make matters worse, this body had a pair of crimson eyes. In the world of these novels, red is always a sign of bad luck. People with red eyes are born to be bullied and shunned, at least until the male lead says something offhand like, "I think they're quite beautiful." Then, she'd probably fall head over heels in love with him like she'd been hit by a bolt of lightning. Evangeline was the only daughter of the house of Earl Rohanson, and her mother had passed away early. Her relationship with her father was ice cold. Even when she literally rose from the dead, her father didn't even bother to come and take a look. In these villainous stories, fathers are either total scumbags or obsessively overprotective. Turns out, hers was definitely the former. There was no fiancé, either. Usually, in this setting, the male lead is either the Crown Prince or the Grand Duke of the North. But the reality was, the Crown Prince was already middle-aged with 2 children. There was no Grand Duke in the North, and the Holy Saint and Saintess were nowhere to be found. That was all the information the maid could provide, so she decided to hunt for the original owner's diary. But there was one catch: she couldn't read a word. The maid hesitated for a moment before saying, "I'll buy a primer for you by tomorrow." With that, she bolted as if running for her life. Wow, she's fast. Taking advantage of the opportunity, she began to explore the mansion. Not in the bedroom, not in the parlor. Nothing. Wait a minute. The maid had mentioned during the tour that there was one room the original owner strictly forbade anyone from entering. Was something hidden in there? She made her way to that very door. She tried to pull the handle, but it didn't budge an inch. She put her weight into it with both hands, and the door finally gave way. The momentum sent her stumbling back as the door creaked open just a crack. She looked up into the shadows of the room and saw a cat with leopard spots and 3 eyes. It was crouching silently in the darkness, all 3 eyes locking onto her at once. Daisy the maid was choking back her terror, forcing herself to volunteer to look after this monster. In reality, she was acting as a spy for the Count, reporting on the creature inhabiting the late young lady's body. Using amnesia as a cover, it had been digging for info on Lady Evangeline, everything from her age and habits to her family ties and even what she liked to eat. It heard the lady took walks at 8 o'clock every morning, so it even started rummaging through her wardrobe to dress like her. It wants to become Lady Evangeline, but its performance is a total failure. Whether the maids were fainting in its presence or screaming for help, it didn't care at all. Instead, those crimson eyes were filled with nothing but cold contempt and disgust. It looked down on everyone like they were worms crawling in the dirt. The Lady Evangeline Daisy knew was nothing like this. That gentle girl would rather suffer in silence while sick than ever say a cruel word to anyone. If this thing really wanted to blend in, it shouldn't be looking at people with such a hateful gaze. But then, out of nowhere, it suddenly asked to learn how to read. Daisy agreed to help get the books, but then it hit her. That was just an excuse to get rid of her. In that brief moment, it vanished. Daisy ended up searching the entire estate for it. She found herself at a locked door with no key in sight. Yet, the creature was inside, calmly reading as if nothing was wrong. To get a better look, Daisy held her breath and peered through the crack in the door. She saw it using the blood from its own fingertips to draw symbols on the floor. It was muttering something about a contract, though the voice was barely a whisper. Daisy cautiously leaned in for a better look, only to lock eyes with the thing. "That's everything I saw," Daisy finished. Count Rohanson rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Blood-drawn runes and talk of contracts. Is it some kind of dark sorcery? He was already on edge because of the entity residing in his daughter's body. Is it trying to summon even more monsters? This nightmare all started when his daughter took her own life. The temple refused to hold a funeral, making even a proper burial impossible. That's what allowed an evil spirit to hijack her remains. With no other options, they had to keep watching. He was about to offer Daisy some words of encouragement, when he noticed she still had her eyes clamped shut. "Why do you keep your eyes closed?" Daisy looked at him with a confused expression. "Because I'm terrified, of course. That thing is still staring right at me, my lord." As she stared, the Count suddenly turned his head away. And then, his eyes met with those countless bloated eyeballs staring right back at him. He had no idea that the monster they feared was just an ordinary girl trying her best to survive. She had struggled quite a bit to pull open that door, only to find a room filled with paintings covered in sheets. Seemed Evangeline was a total introvert who loved to paint. A real, keep out, type. Even having to cover them up like this. The diary is probably somewhere on that bookshelf. I can't read a single word of this world's language, but I can use the process of elimination. Exclude the ones with titles that look too neat. Exclude the ones as thick as a dictionary. Exclude the ones with perfect typography, too. And then, just like that, I found one with ink stains on it, though the pitch black cover looks a bit creepy. It doesn't match a Villainess's taste at all. As I casually flipped through the pages, a slip of paper fell out. It was a circle filled with geometric patterns. This is 100% a summoning circle. I can't believe a summoning circle was hidden in a diary. She felt a rush of excitement. It seems this novel's setting is a bit old school. Selling your soul to a demon isn't exactly trendy these days. Without much hesitation, she decided to draw it. A villainess has to have some way to defend herself, after all. I happen to have some paint. Even though there are plenty of brushes, this kind of thing only feels right if you paint it with your fingers. Who cares if it's an elf or a dragon? Just let someone, anyone, sign a contract with me. Late that night, she fell into a deep sleep, and the creature that chose her made its entrance. When she woke up the next day, there was a three-eyed, leopard print orange cat sitting by her bed. Cats in another world are truly extraordinary. Looking at this cute, gentle little thing, she gulped. Just a little pet, a little cuddle. That should be fine, right? Just as the maid entered the room, she immediately snapped back into her villainous persona. Noticing that the maid was different from yesterday, she didn't think much of it. It's probably just a shift rotation. To get on the new maid's good side, she tried to break the ice with a cute topic. Does the Count's family keep a lot of cats? But the maid answered with a completely blank face. They were all slaughtered long ago. The maid continued, because the cats started an infectious disease. The girl immediately went on high alert. If that little guy gets caught, it's over. But in the very next second, a soft meow rang out. The maid looked around the room. Was that a cat meowing? Evangeline forced herself to stay calm. I didn't hear a thing. That's strange. It clearly meowed right next to them. She desperately pretended she hadn't heard a sound. Baby, please don't meow. If you're found, it's death for both of us. Luckily, the maid left without searching the room. It nearly gave her a heart attack. I thought it was just a local cat, but in the blink of an eye, I've become that person. The one who brings home a stray cat without their family's permission. But if I kick it out now, it'll die. I'll have a priest and a doctor check it over before I officially keep it. They wouldn't kill a pet belonging to the Count's daughter, would they? She went to seek the Count's permission, but she was turned away at the door. The butler bowed his head politely. My apologies, my lady. The Count is currently buried in official business and said he cannot see you. If there is something you wish to convey, you may tell it to me. Evangeline quickly placed her hand on his shoulder, signaling him to stand. Just who exactly was the original owner of this body? To think an elder would give her a 90-degree bow. The touch gave the butler a sudden, visible shudder. She pulled her hand back instantly. I just wanted to keep a cat. Is that not allowed? The butler's expression grew troubled. He rubbed his shoulder, his voice strained. No, it is not that. She received permission soon after. She had originally planned to take the cat for a medical checkup. But since holy water can cure any infectious disease, why on earth would they need to kill the poor thing? Once the butler confirmed the cat had finished the holy water, he left. Just then, a maid handed her a collar. The girl spoke with hesitation. The other servants, they might try to hurt the cat. How about embroidering its name on the collar and letting it wear it? Evangeline loved the idea immediately. But then she realized, she didn't know the language, let alone how to embroider. Before she could explain, the maid fled as if her life depended on it. Even the maid who promised to buy her a literacy book had vanished without a trace. Seeing them all trembling like that, she had assumed the original soul was some arrogant, cruel villainess. So there's a hidden backstory of being bullied in secret, huh? I'm so sorry, baby. Mommy is so useless. I need to learn how to read, and fast. This half-baked Isekai transmigration was just too much. But then, she woke up the next morning and could suddenly read everything. Was this some kind of after-service patch for the possessed? Since she'd mastered the writing, she figured maybe her body's muscle memory could handle the embroidery too. But the final product was a complete disaster. She couldn't even decipher her own stitching. Just as she was debating whether to start over, Kitten actually meowed at her, acting as if it were urging her to hurry up and put the collar on. You really are an angel, aren't you? In her past life, she could never afford to keep a pet. Now, that dream was finally coming true. She pulled the cat into a tight hug. From this day on, your name is Pudding. Late that night, Hannah, one of the maids, was consumed by anxiety. If only she had that. Her sister could be saved. That precious, miraculous holy water. How could it be wasted so easily? Do you want it? Hannah spun around, searching the room, but there was no one there. Only the cat, calmly grooming its fur. The cat Miss Evangeline was keeping. You said you wanted that water. You can have it, I will show you what to do. The cat slowly opened its eyes. 3 eyes stared directly at Hannah. In this most cliché, trashy romance story, the one god who should have never, ever woken up has opened its eyes. It scared the original girl's father so badly he fled in the middle of the night. In his panicked state, he only managed to grab a few random clothes. Everyone in the mansion was whispering. They said the count had been trembling for days, muttering about countless eyes staring at him from the darkness, staring at every single person. There was even a maid named Daisy who went around telling everyone she had gone blind. She never dared to open her eyes again. Even when offered a position with another noble family, she turned it down flat and went straight to a monastery. The management of the now empty mansion was left to the butler. As for family business, the count could handle that from his remote estate. For now, the butler had only one true task: to watch over that monster wearing Miss Evangeline's skin. And Hannah's job was to report every single detail about that thing to the butler. Ever since Daisy's accident, no one was willing to be the lady's personal maid. They had to skyrocket the salary just to find a replacement. Hannah, desperate for the money, had taken the job. I heard a cat meowing. The young lady asked if there were any cats at home. I told her they were all dead. I know I cleaned everything up, so why can I still hear them meowing? It seems the butler can't hear a thing. Instead, he just looks at the maid, who was fine a moment ago, now appearing totally unhinged. He's worried and asks Hannah if she needs a recommendation letter to leave. It's a kind offer, really, but all that rings in Hannah's ears is the echoing wail of a cat. The butler hands her the note he wrote. Hannah just shakes her head. She's staying. She has to keep working. She might be losing her hearing, but she can get by just fine by reading lips. Hannah has a little sister, you see. And for her sick, precious sister, she has to keep this job. So, the butler follows the Earl's orders. He tells Hannah to feed the cat some holy water, to see if it's actually a monster. Hannah's heart stops. Holy water? If she had that, her sister could finally be cured. Something so precious, and they're just going to waste it on a cat? Do you want it? Hannah's head snaps around. A human voice. Finally, there's no one there except Miss Evangeline's cat. Was the cat talking to her? If you want it, it's yours. I'll tell you exactly what to do. Then, the cat opens a third eye. A monster. It's a monster. It's a monster. Hannah bolts, absolutely terrified. She has to tell the butler. Maybe there's a reward in it for her? But she freezes. A measly reward wouldn't even come close to the price of holy water. For her sister, she's prepared to do anything. Anything at all. So she goes back. She follows the cat's instructions and swaps the holy water. Miss Evangeline doesn't react to the fake water at all. Only Hannah knows the truth. That the real holy water actually worked on the cat. But she acts like she knows nothing. She just obeys the creature's every demand. In front of others, the cat keeps one eye shut, pretending to be a perfectly normal pet. Maybe it's because Hannah serves it so well. But she doesn't hear the meowing anymore. And the pay? It's incredible. She has plenty left over after her bills. On her way home, she stops at the market and buys all of her sister's favorite treats. With the holy water, her sister is getting better every day. This dreamlike life is enough to make her forget the daytime horrors of serving that bizarre cat and that terrifying young lady. For her sister's sake, she'll keep serving that lady, even if she's staring at a creepy book right now. Letting out a bone-chilling, hideous laugh. But then, the mood shifts completely. Evangeline is feeling pretty smug. She's a possessor who can actually read and write now. Since she knows the language, it's time to dig into the original girl's diary. Maybe she'll find a summoning spell. You know, for a spirit or a dragon or something. Time to start her cheat code life. But after searching for ages, she realizes this is actually Evangeline's mother's diary. 20 years ago, Earl Rohanson proposed to her, but her father forbid the marriage. He called him a gold digger after the Duke's fortune, but she defied her family to marry him anyway. She was completely disowned, but just 1 year later, she regretted everything. She really should have listened to her father. Just as Evangeline finds a summoning spell, her internal translator glitches out. The update just stopped halfway. Seriously? What do thorns and grapes have to do with anything? Is this some reap what you sow thing? What the heck is all this? With an aching head, she decided to wait for the translation patch to update. After all, it's not like the paper would grow legs and run away. But the next day, it really did. The paper on her desk had vanished into thin air. The diary was untouched, but the single sheet of paper was gone. Hannah searched the entire room but couldn't find it. Who came into my room yesterday? She thought for a moment. It must have been Dono. Come to think of it, he hasn't shown up at all today. Where is that guy now? How dare he steal from me? Just wait, I'll wring his neck. Meanwhile, Dono was using his own blood to draw a rune on the floor. Now, all he had to do was wait for sunset. Then, he could summon a demon, using that girl's life as the price. You risked death to steal her summoning circle, thinking you'd be safe hiding deep in the slums? Until the door was kicked wide open by Evangeline. The unhurried footsteps were like the pendulum of death. The servant's hands trembled. He remembered he still had a knife. The next second, a blade sliced across his throat, and blood sprayed everywhere. He collapsed in the summoning circle he had drawn with his own hands. After all, dying was easier than facing her. Half a day earlier. Including the girl tied up on the floor. Tears of despair streamed down Kanna's face. She had only wanted to give that little cat a snack, the one she often saw when her older sister came home. But in the next instant, she met a brutal fate. Dano stopped in front of his sacrifice. He knelt down. Sorry to keep you waiting. The time for the sacrifice has finally come. To an ordinary person, this might have just looked like child's play. But Dano, who served the Earl's family, immediately saw the truth in the spell. Evangeline Rohanson, the one who had hanged herself, was resurrected. If it wasn't the work of a demon, who could possibly do such a thing? Those foolish colleagues of mine could only blabber about her being possessed. A bunch of useless trash. The key is to figure out who summoned the demon. Only Dano sensed the reason behind it all. Evangeline Rohanson's maternal family was the ducal house of Horsakin. Earl Rohanson had claimed his daughter was frail since childhood, and received a huge amount of medical funding from the ducal family. But if Evangeline died, all that money would be gone. So, it had to be Earl Rohanson. He made a deal with a demon to resurrect his daughter. That damned Earl. He acts so kind, but deep down, he's nothing more than greedy, aristocratic trash. Dano had long seen through the Earl's filthy intentions. Just because he was cleaning the office and saw a document detailing an exorbitant payment, the Earl beat him half to death. Through this sacrifice, Dano would become a much more respectable noble than the likes of Earl Rohanson. He pressed the blade against Kanna's neck. If I'm going to make a sacrifice, I should at least prepare it to the demon's taste. Demons surely prefer their prey dripping with fresh blood. Where the sharp edge grazed her skin, beads of blood formed a line and trickled slowly down. He reveled in the maneuver, which was so delicate it was almost an art form. As he began to chant the spell again, a loud bang shook the room, sending dust flying everywhere. Through the haze, he saw a figure approaching. The first thing that caught his eye was a dazzlingly white dress that looked like a nightgown. Then, his gaze moved up to hair that was just as colorless, as pale as snow. When his eyes finally met those scarlet pupils, Dano drew a sharp, cold breath. Bow down in awe and worship. Welcome the angel of light who walks the earth and descends upon the mortal world, Evangeline Rohanson. A horn sounded from somewhere out of the blue. Evangeline didn't expect such a massive commotion. That flimsy door shattered with a single kick, and she stepped into the room. There was Dano, holding a knife to the throat of a girl who was tied up like a bundle. Did a common thief just evolve into a human trafficker? It seemed they knew each other. Evangeline's fury reached its absolute boiling point. You dare lay a finger on someone belonging to my henna? I'll never let you get away with this. First, I have to get him away from that girl. Dano stammered out her name, his entire body trembling. This vicious criminal is actually afraid of me? He must have a guilty conscience now that his crimes are exposed. Are you finding my summoning circle easy to use? You mean, you are the true owner of that circle? That's right. So, that's why I've come to find you. Tell me, what do you want? Don't be shy. I'll grant you anything you desire. Dano made a wish with frantic excitement. Make me a multimillionaire. Let me live a life of luxury without lifting a finger. But Evangeline hadn't brought any money with her. She had to feed him a pipe dream for now. Sure, why not? How does the title of Count Rohanson sound? I'll make you a count. Dano froze in his tracks. Was the promise too big for him to wrap his head around? As soon as the hostage is safe, I'm tossing this guy straight into prison. Count Rohanson, not bad at all. Just what I wanted. It seems like a fine idea for me to seize that damn Count's title after all. Well then, let's seal this deal right now. But just as he lunged toward Kanna, Evangeline seized the opening and delivered a heavy blow to the back of his head. Dano lost consciousness instantly and hit the floor with a thud. He should have aimed for the neck. After making sure the man wasn't getting back up, Hannah rushed to her sister, desperately trying to untie the knots on Kanna's hands and feet. Don't be scared, Kanna. Big sister will get these off you right now. It won't come loose. What do I do? Why won't it open? Tears streamed down Hannah's face. Her hands were shaking like leaves in the wind. Move aside, Hannah. Evangeline walked over. With just a few tugs, the ropes came loose easily. Your hands were too far apart. So of course you couldn't undo it. It's okay now. Hannah pulled her sister into a tight embrace. Are you okay? How did you get caught? Didn't I tell you not to go outside? You've only just recovered. I'm sorry, sister. I didn't think I'd be caught by someone like him while I was waiting for you. I was so worried, Kanna. I'm just so glad you're safe. Thank goodness I wasn't too late. Watching the two of them in such a tender moment, she felt a lump in her throat. She wanted to hug them both too. But as a notorious villainess, joining in now would totally ruin her reputation, wouldn't it? Your name is Kanna, right? Now, what should we do with Dano? Should we lock him in the dungeon forever? Looking closer now, she realized. The wound on Kanna's neck was deeper than she had thought. How is your neck? Kanna replied with a grateful, I'm okay. Dano, having regained consciousness, grabbed the dagger. Without a moment's hesitation, he plunged it in. Hannah rushed over to protect the young lady. A completely unexpected scene unfolded before them. They thought Dano would lunge at the young lady with the knife. But instead, he stabbed himself. He collapsed right into the summoning circle he'd drawn with his own blood. Evangeline blinked in confusion. Is he really that unwilling to atone for his sins? Some criminals choose suicide just to escape punishment. I guess it's the same in this world too. I'm sorry, he's definitely dead. He should have faced a proper trial. But Kanna shook her head, saying it didn't matter. This was enough for her. The girl's eyes began to sparkle. Her radiant smile was as refreshing as if she'd cast aside every burden. Thank you so much for saving me. Evangeline felt a swell of pride. Saving someone really was worth it after all. Her heart felt warm, but wait, why was it getting so hot in here? My lady, Hannah cried out, the place is on fire. We have to get out of here, now. Flames were already illuminating everything around them. 3 of them scrambled out of the house. Had Dano actually managed to summon a fire spirit? Damn it, when she had tried drawing a summoning circle on the ground with her finger. She'd only ended up with a bleeding finger from a splinter. She couldn't even recite the incantation. Nothing had happened, and now, even the incantation was being swallowed by the flames. Rust-stained walls and a room smelling of mold, cold soup and a bed that was both narrow and hard as a rock. And that single window, that was Kanna's entire world. She had been sickly since birth, a result of a traumatic delivery. Her mother passed away during childbirth, and her father worked himself to death just to pay for Kanna's medical bills. Now, that crushing burden rested on her older sister, Hannah. Her existence had already claimed the lives of her 2 closest kin. Yet Kanna's health never improved. She remained bedridden, wasting away day after day. She couldn't even lift a hand. Even breathing felt like a monumental struggle. She could have told her sister that there was no hope, that she should just give up on her. But she wanted to keep clinging to this miserable life. And her sister, she called that hope. Kanna would watch the birds chirping outside. I know that one day, you'll be able to walk as freely as they do, her sister would say. I'll make it happen, I promise. So, please, let's not give up. From the moment she heard those words, that tiny window became everything to Kanna. In the monotony of her daily life, the only thing that changed was the view outside. Kanna began to lose herself in it. She clung desperately to the hope her sister spoke of. Until one day, a new sight appeared outside her window. And then, a miracle happened. From that moment on, she was finally free from the agony of her illness. But the first thing she felt wasn't joy or happiness. It was rage. Her father and sister had sacrificed their entire lives, all for a single bottle of this water. They threw their lives away. This misplaced resentment, it was all directed at Lady Evangeline, the one who had given her the holy water. However, with a deafening crash, the door was smashed to pieces. A figure who truly deserved the name of an angel reached out to her once again. That woman was none other than Evangeline Johansson, the same one who had given her sister the holy water. As Evangeline gazed at Kanna, other eyes were watching her just as intently. Dozens of eyes bloomed around me. Must they be sealed away forever? Evangeline was summoned by the man, but it was Kanna whose opinion she truly sought. How does your neck feel? Great. The man's body began to let out a slight groan and started to move. He tried to resist the invisible pressure controlling his actions. His arm was forced to bend inward as his resistance to the pain weakened. The knife moved without hesitation. The man stabbed his own throat with his own hand. This scene was witnessed by countless onlookers, with the sole exception of Evangeline. He's already dead. It doesn't matter. This is enough for me. Suicide is the gravest of sins. There is no forgiveness for those who cast away the life given to them by the gods. Man abandoned by Evangeline will be scorned even by the gods. The only home for that soul is hell. The flames of hell came to welcome the man. A wave of scorching heat instantly washed over Kanna's face. That heat was like her sister's embrace, as warm as the midday sun in summer. At the same time, a black-haired knight gazed into the distance. A residential building was engulfed in raging flames. Soon, the people of the town were drawn by the light of the fire. As the crowd grew larger, the night order also arrived at the scene. Looks like someone reported it. As expected from the world of a romance novel, their white uniforms, worn instead of armor, paired with pure white capes, looked exceptionally magnificent. One man among them was the most dazzling. He walked straight towards Evangeline. The girl was stunned. He was so handsome it was unreal. Handsome enough to make you invent memories, like getting into trouble together. Only for the teacher to scold you and you alone. Pardon my intrusion. I am Gabriel, captain of the Polaros Night Order. Wait a minute. A handsome, aloof, black-haired knight? Don't tell me this guy is the male lead? Elle was the first to ask. Miss, what might you be doing here? This doesn't seem like a suitable place for a stroll. Evangeline winced. She really did look like the Villainess. Be suspected the moment we meet. The next second, Kana stood protectively in front of her lady. Her sister warned her it was too dangerous. But Kana refused to back down. This knight is interrogating my lady. Evangeline was deeply moved. She couldn't hide behind this child who had already been through so much. I wasn't out for a stroll. I came here looking for someone. The person whose house is on fire was my servant. But he's dead now. You don't need to worry about it. He deserved to die, anyway. Elle was silent for a moment. Could you please explain in more detail? Evangeline was at a loss. Where should I even begin? Tell him that Dano summoned a fire elemental and then killed himself? Would he even believe me? Just as she was hesitating on how to begin, Kana stepped forward. I will explain. My lady's servant kidnapped me. After I called out to my sister for help, my lady came to rescue me. We didn't see him escape. I suppose he must have died. The situation before them was clearly much more convincing. The male lead also seemed to believe Kana's words. His attitude was much kinder than it had been toward her. Wait, no way. In that split second, the countless romance novels I'd read. Their covers flashed through my mind. A heroine with wavy red hair and a male lead with black hair. This is insane. So Kana was the female lead all along. That kidnapping just now was clearly meant to be the hero saves the beauty plot for the male lead. And because I barged in, the romantic meeting between the leads was completely ruined. But even if they're just characters in a book, I couldn't just stand there and do nothing. You don't have any more questions, do you? My lady is exhausted. We'll be taking our leave now. The conversation ended on a cold note. This attitude was way too cold for the male lead. The original heroine actually sided with the villainess. This is exactly like those possessed the villainess stories. She had no choice but to leave a final word and turn away. If you ever run into trouble. Perfect. Another favor in the bag. Little did she know, Earl was staring at the mouth of the alley where the pure white doll had vanished. At first, the man thought a statue was standing among the crowd. In a slum like this, it was impossible for such a masterfully carved stone statue to exist. The reason he didn't recognize her at first was because there was absolutely no sign of life in that thing. An object that should have been cold and dead was staring back at him with crimson eyes. Bright red lips spoke human words. The moment he witnessed that eerie sight, Earl was so stunned he could barely find his voice. He forced himself to stay calm while speaking with the woman. Just as he suspected, that thing was definitely not human. When the death of the servant was mentioned, there wasn't a single trace of warmth in her eyes. It was as if she didn't care about an ant she'd passed by. However, she showed strange concern for that maid named Kana. Perhaps because she had gained the attention of something non-human, the maid's state of mind was far from normal as well. Her blind, fanatical expression. It was as if she were looking at the very god she worshipped. His subordinates called out to the commander. Before they even had a chance to put it out, the fire extinguished itself, and it hadn't even spread to the surrounding area. It only burned down this one house. But that wasn't all. A body was found at the scene. A corpse that remained carbonized even after death. The mangled remains, with limbs torn apart, looked strangely like an angel. Behind the limbless corpse, the scorch marks on the ground spread out like wings. A sacred pattern was etched behind the head, glowing like a halo around the skull. Wings made of ash, they shattered before they could ever take flight. Destined to plunge into a bottomless abyss. The painter muttered to himself about his mission. This is the mission I've been given. I must complete this painting. This sacred angel, the halo above its head. It was faint, like a candle flame about to flicker out, ready to vanish at any moment. The man had once been hailed as a brilliant newcomer, but because his work didn't suit the noble's tastes, he quickly fell from grace and became a laughingstock, now reduced to living off his wife. He wandered the streets, desperate to find even a spark of inspiration. Then, he unexpectedly found a cluster of strange flames. After that sunlight, dazzling fire died out. Amidst the remaining ash and debris, he discovered someone burned completely black. A sacred angel with nothing left but a torso. His inspiration exploded in an instant. He rushed back to his place immediately and snatched up his brush. Without even sketching a draft, his mind was consumed by a single thought. He had to finish this painting before the memory faded, yet he always felt like something was missing. The pigments just couldn't capture it perfectly. As his gaze swept over the palette knife, he grabbed it without hesitation and stabbed his own thigh. Amid the sharp pain, beads of blood soaked through his trousers. Dipping his brush in the blood, he continued to paint. The angel's backlight was finally perfect. On the carriage ride back, Miss Evangeline suddenly spoke. Should I arrange a room for you at the mansion? You must be scared to go home, right? I'll take care of you. She was asking Kana, not Hannah. Hannah wished her sister would refuse. But she was afraid that even a subtle hint would anger the young lady. The scene of Dano's horrible death was still vivid in her mind. What was even more baffling was that Kana actually seemed satisfied with that disgusting, terrifying death. Can my sister stay too? Of course you can. Can we pick our own room? Whatever you like. Her sister chattered on excitedly, which made Hannah feel like she was a stranger. She'd always been brave, even as a child. Was it because the young lady had saved her that she was finally opening up? But the butler knew Kana was sick. If he saw her safe and sound now, he might realize they had stolen the holy water. Excuse me, can we have the room next to the young ladies? Hannah was startled. That room belonged to the late countess. But since she has passed away, it's empty now, so that's fine. All the furniture is there, so it's convenient to move right in. I'll speak to the count about it. Hannah couldn't object. She could only pray that before the count threw them out, the butler wouldn't find out. After the two changed into their nightgowns, Kana, who had been resting with her eyes closed, suddenly spoke up. I can hear the young lady walking around upstairs. Hannah focused and listened intently, but she heard nothing. Anyway, choosing this room was the right decision. I really like it. Bed is big enough for us to lie in together, sister. And, did you see the young lady's cat earlier? She had seen it at her own home before, so it belongs to the young lady. It must be fate. Hannah didn't dare to say that the cat was a monster. Just as she was about to drift off to sleep, Kana spoke softly. Sister, thank you for coming to get me today. I was so scared. Thinking about how she had just found her sister's forced composure a bit strange. Hannah's heart filled with guilt. No matter what Kana did, to Hannah, she would always just be her most precious little sister. Meanwhile, Evangeline made a decision. From now on, her goal was to get on good terms with Kana. Getting close to the male lead would only brand her as the obsessive, villainous side character. She had no desire to fall in love with a character from a book. The true shortcut to escaping her fate as a villainess was to bet everything on the female lead. No matter what happened, she had to protect her. To that end, she wrote a letter to the Count, asking him to let the two sisters continue to stay there. Even though she'd seen the light on in the Count's room just last night, the butler said he was away on business. Afraid the letter alone would be coldly rejected, she took out the Countess's diary. She tore out a page full of curses against the Count, folded it neatly with the letter, and sent it off. He'd have to agree if his conscience was pricked, right? Now she could keep the female lead by her side as much as she wanted. She could leisurely and happily enjoy her life as a villainess, just as she was contemplating how to raise the female lead in the future. The male lead, L, suddenly showed up for a visit, saying he had come to apologize. Evangeline thought he'd finally grown a conscience and was actually worried about the girl who'd been kidnapped. She was just about to call Kana over, but it turns out he couldn't care less. That's the kidnapped one, right? She doesn't look like she sustained any serious injuries. Evangeline couldn't help but complain to herself. Seriously? That's all he has to say? Every time I see the scar on Kana's neck. Do you have any idea how much it hurts Hannah and me? We were planning to find some holy water to heal her, but Kana insisted on keeping the scar, so we just had to cry and go along with what she wanted. Al explained that he came here today because he wanted to hear Miss Johansson's perspective. You might face charges. They're saying you disgracefully faked Dano's death. Evangeline was floored. What the hell kind of plot twist is this now? She watched as he pulled a piece of paper from his coat to show her, making her even more shocked. Honestly, whoever drew this, their skills are absolutely pathetic. Al admitted that he was the one who drew it, though he knew it was a bit of an eyesore. I hope you'll bear with me. But if you look at it this way, doesn't it look just like an angel? Sorry, she just wasn't seeing it. No matter how she looked at it, it looked like a snake. At the scene of the crime, they found Dano's body. Some people have started spreading rumors that Dano was actually blessed by the gods. That is completely ridiculous. Why on earth would someone like Dano receive a blessing? That bastard kidnapped Arcana, and then he took the coward's way out by committing suicide just to avoid the consequences. It was just a small rumor at first, but then some artist painted the scene and offered it to the temple. Now everyone in the temple is talking about it. Some are even suggesting that Dano's body should be enshrined there. The higher-ups have ordered a reinvestigation to ensure that Dano wasn't wrongfully accused in death. The problem is, if Dano is officially recognized as being blessed, then Miss Johansson will be the one accused of forging his death. Evangeline couldn't believe her ears. Is this another one of those tropes where the original story forces the plot forward? Excuse me, miss, Al said. Was everything you told me actually true? Even the male lead was starting to doubt her. She had asked the sisters before, and it seemed people in this world had no idea that spirits even existed. Who would believe her if she said Dano had summoned a fire spirit right now? So, she fired back with a question. Do you think I'm lying? Al, for his part, didn't believe Dano was blessed. But his death is certainly suspicious. I want to help you. Evangeline didn't get it. Why was the male lead trying so hard to show off in front of a villainess? Yes, if I may be so bold. The male lead lowered his eyes. Wait, is he actually blushing? Based on her years of experience reading romance fantasy novels, this is clearly a major love flag. She's been trying so hard to escape her fate as a villainess. But instead, it's making the male lead fall for her. It looks like she underestimated the villainous possession genre. Is she really supposed to date the male lead? He's just a 2D character on a page. Meanwhile, she was a real, living person. Desperate to get away from him, Evangeline blurted out, I'm not interested in you. Little did she know, Al had already guessed as much. I know you're not interested in people, miss. But that's alright, I'm just purely curious about you. He didn't move an inch, but his words gave her absolute goosebumps. Is there even blood running through that guy's veins? It's probably just pure syrup. The world of romance fantasy is way too scary. Anyway, back to business. She made it clear that she hadn't gone looking for Dano because Kana was kidnapped. She went because he had stolen her painting and fled. She chased him down and found Kana tied up right there, in the center of a circular summoning array. She wasn't entirely sure what was being summoned, probably an angel or something like that. As the words left her lips, a heavy silence descended. Everything around them seemed to fall quiet, as if peering into Evangeline's expression. Flower petals curled back into buds to shield themselves from the wind, like a grand orchestra suddenly halting its symphony. It felt as though the only thing left in the world was the sound of heartbeats. It was startling. Is it because of me? How foolish. You overstep yourself. I have no interest in you. A fire of rage ignited in her once indifferent eyes, and her crimson lips twisted as she spat out those contemptuous words. Isle couldn't even speak clearly. With every word he managed to squeeze out, his breathing became more labored. He actually agreed with her. Would a human ever truly be interested in a swarm of ants crawling through a garden? It's a mercy not to crush them underfoot. They really should be more grateful. Naturally, it wasn't a sin. Evangeline was simply furious that such insignificant ants had dared to crawl into her home. So, he quickly tried to explain. I'm merely curious about you. Even if that curiosity is somewhat negative. But being able to draw an actual emotion out of Evangeline, that was exhilarating. It was like witnessing a withered, barren old tree suddenly bursting into bloom when it shouldn't have. Isle looked toward the Johansson mansion. The estate looked so grim and eerie that it felt completely out of place in the bright afternoon sun. There should have been plenty of servants around, yet the place was unnaturally deserted. The silence was uncanny. Only the cherry blossoms in one corner of the courtyard were a haunting, vivid red. He wondered what kind of fertilizer they used. When he looked back at the cherry tree, the doll that had been hanging there was gone. Was what he just saw merely an illusion caused by the falling petals? Inside the carriage, Isle was in total disbelief. The idea that Evangeline would actually hang herself was just utterly ridiculous. Perhaps it was because of the strange rumors he'd heard while gathering intel on her. He'd heard of a priest who claimed to have witnessed the deceased Evangeline return from the dead. But there were no funeral records for her at the temple. Instead, the person who had hung himself was the very priest meant to perform the burial. They say he didn't even leave a suicide note. Those nearby said the priest often gave secret sermons to the families of suicide victims and had been embezzling temple funds. Because of that, people assumed his death was divine retribution. Raphael curiously asked the captain, on that piece of paper that didn't burn, bow down in awe and worship to welcome the angel of light descending to this earth. What does that even mean? Isle thought back to the fragments of the conversation. They were likely trying to summon an angel or something. He had heard that summoning circles meant to grant wishes were popular a long time ago, before the great purge of the sorcerers who practiced such arts. He wasn't sure exactly when. About the curse, just as he mentioned the woman's name, the carriage suddenly lurched violently. The coach swayed, nearly tipping over before finally regaining its balance and coming to a halt. Raphael threw the door open and rushed out to demand an explanation. I thought you said you knew how to drive. The coachman apologized profusely. A cat just darted out from nowhere. Isle spoke up to calm him down. My attendants and I are all safe. Please, rest easy. I'd rather be the one hurt than cause a crash, the coachman said, finally breathing a heavy sigh of relief. Elle fell into a deep silence. Why did this happen just as they were discussing the topic of curses? Carriage nearly overturned. Was this really just a coincidence? Lately, rumors of a bizarre, holy painting hanging in the temple have been spreading in the shadows. They say a young lady fainted after seeing it, only to meet the sun god himself in her dreams. The high priest couldn't stop praising it and even rewarded the artist. Now, people are saying the painting can actually sniff out heretics. It's said to be as sacred as a divine guardian. Even a knight named Michel found himself unable to tear his eyes away. The whispers spread from person to person. The stories grew more distorted and exaggerated with every retelling. Meanwhile, in a remote convent far from civilization, the nuns immediately stopped their laughing and gossiping the moment they saw Daisy walking toward them. One of them leaned in and secretly warned her, even if the father summons you tonight, you absolutely must not go. Do you understand? That man is a notorious creep, especially when it comes to the new girls. Daisy decided to hide in the library tonight and stay there until dawn. That way, he couldn't send anyone to her room to harass her. It had already been 3 weeks since she escaped the Johansson estate. She had barely managed to get away from that monster inhabiting Lady Evangeline's body. She didn't want to cause any more trouble. By now, the clock had already struck 2. Thinking it was finally safe to head back, Daisy stood up from her seat. But the moment she pushed the door open, she saw 2 men waiting right there for her. Sister, did you enjoy your late night stroll? The father has a message for you. before Daisy could even open her mouth, the monk grabbed her and dragged her away by force. The two men whispered to each other along the way. Do you think his lordship will go back to normal once he sees this girl? Or maybe he just really has a thing for women. When they reached the father's door, the man shoved her straight inside. You can come out once the father is feeling better, he said, slamming the door shut. Painful groans echoed from within the room. I have to. I must complete the parts that were hidden. The moment Daisy saw what the father looked like, she reflexively took a step back in horror. Though the lines weren't perfectly clear, Daisy recognized the pattern on the paper instantly. How could she ever forget? That was clearly the exact same design, drawn by that monster wearing the young lady's skin.